I'm analyzing patient Janet Miller, so I need to double click on the patient name to open the study. And I'm going to work left to right, starting with the edit mode. This is where I can input all the patient information, last name, date of birth, referring physician, indication for the test, patient diary symptoms, is there any, medication, and so on and so forth. Next step is to go into view. This is where we're going to edit through all the beats. And again, working left to right, I'm going to start with normal beats. Again, there's no need to go into normal beats unless the signal is not very clean. So I'm just going to check the last 3 bins, and I can do that. There's 6 characters in this bin, so I can do it one at a time. And they all seem to be fine. 13 of these are here, and a couple of them here. Now I can see this one is a ventricular beat, or an aberrant beat, so I'm just going to label it from here. Change this to ventricular. Next, moving on to the ventricular beats. I mean, there's quite a few bins here. Starting with bin number 1, there's 25 characters here. And I can look at it one at a time. Or I can put view mode on and then using the Z button, blow up the screen to the full page size. And you have options of 30 by 20 characters, 20 by 10, 12 by 6, and whatever you feel comfortable working with. I'm going to work on 12 by 6. So all these beats seem to be normal, or correct rather. There's a normal looking one here, so it's not a ventricular. Just going to double check, and sure enough it's not. So I can change it from here to normal, or I can change it, again double clicking, and click on the box and change to normal from here. Moving on, using the Z button again to go out of bin 1. Bin number 2 only has 1 beat here, and it's correct. Next bin, there's 4 of them here, and these seem to be correct as well. Moving on to the next one. And there's quite a few here. So I'm just going to page down quickly through it, just to make sure that these are all correct. And they seem to be. Same here. Again, click on any of the boxes and use the Z button to go out of that bin. Go into the next one. Now I can see there's a lot of VPBs that are being missed. So these gray ones are actually not labeled correctly. So I can do it at this point, or I can come across them later on in our Irregular Rhythm or shortest NN, things like that. So if I want to change it from here, I would have to go into full disclosure or page mode. So again, double click on the box that you want to change, and there's quite a few of them. These are labeled supraventricular. We haven't gone into supraventricular bin yet, so I will change them from there. But while I'm here, I can change these to ventricular. I can do it one at a time by clicking on the beat and changing to ventricular, or I can change more characters than one by holding down the Shift key on your keyboard and clicking on the last one, which I want to change. So this highlights both of these beats, and I'm going to change them to ventricular and go back to the bin. There's another example here. This beat is actually missing altogether. So before I change it, I need to insert it first. So click on the insert, and using single left mouse key, insert the beat, and then change this using again the Shift key on your keyboard, highlighting both of them, changing to ventricular. And again, these two, same story. There's a nice run here. So you can Shift and click on the last one to change these all to ventricular. Same with this one here. And one more. And we are done with this bin. So again, Z button to go out. Go into the next one, 7 beats here, and these are all correct. Again, this one is missing. And there's another one here, so what I can do, change all of these at the same time to ventricular. And finally onto the last one. And all these are artifact or normal beats, which I'm not gonna bother changing into normal. This one here, it's on a T wave. There's an actual ventricular beat that's labeled correctly. You can see the little off red color here. So the whole bin is going to be changed into artifact. I can do it from here by marking the page or marking all of these beats by clicking on one and dragging down to as far as I want. Or again, double click to go out using the Z button and change it from this page here, right click and artifacts. So this takes care of the whole bin. So at this point I'm finished editing my ventricular beats and moving on to supraventricular. Some ventricular beats here. So first I'm going to untag the first one by right clicking on it and then tag the ones that I want to change to ventricular. Now here there's a whole row, a row and a half, so what I can do is click on the first one and drag my mouse down as far down as the last. I seem to have missed the first two as well. And continue throughout the page. So these I'm going to change it to ventricular and then keep going through the rest of this bin. Now I can also tag these and then continue on to the next page. And this whole page is ventricular beats. So again, I'm going to mark page and keep going through it. This one is normal, so I'm just going to untag this with a right click, as well as this one. Everything else, one more hiding here. Everything else is ventricular. And again, using the page, mark page button, I can mark all of these. Again, this one is normal, this one is normal, and this one is normal. All the other ones are ventricular, so I'm just going to mark page again and untag these. It's just going to be quicker this way. There's only 3 or 4 which I need to untag. Everything else is ventricular. And onto the last page. Change to ventricular. So all these that we have tagged up until that point have been changed to ventricular. And continue with the rest of this page. Again, there's some ventricular beats here. So this is fairly flexible. You can see you can go from left to right, right to left. Doesn't matter. So all these I'm changing to ventricular. And this took me to the next bin. I want to go back for a moment to this one because there's some normal beats here. This one is not early, so I can change these ones to normal. And everything else seems to be correct. And Z button to go out of this bin. Move on to the next one. There are only 2 characters here. Now I can see already there's some ventricular beats here as well that are not detected properly, so I'm going to double click and change these 4 beats to ventricular. Again, shift down and click on the last beat. Change to ventricular. This one is ventricular as well, so I can do it from here, as is this one. Going back to the bin. These seem to be ventricular, so I'm just going to change these. And double check this one here. And sure enough, it's early. Z button to move on to the next bin. And there's only 1 character here, so it seems to be correct. Just want to double check, so double click and we actually have a run here. So at this point we're done editing our supraventricular beats, and the last thing here I'm going to check are the artifact bins. So again, using the same method. Only 1 character here, I don't need to go here, neither here. Move on to the next one. and we do have some ventricular beats here. First, this one here, so I'm just going to double click, and there's a couplet which I'm gonna change and go back to where I was. Next one here, another couplet, and there's a run, sure enough. So I'm going to change all of them again, shift down key, click on the last one, change to ventricular. This one here, while I'm on this page, I can change these two as well, the ventricular, and go back to where I was. And everything else seems to be fine. So Z button to go out of there, couple of bins left, and the last one. And these are fine. So we're pretty much done editing through all the beats. Next step, we're going to go into episodes mode. And in the episodes mode, we have 481 VPBs, 26 ventricular couplets, 14 triplets, 13 runs of ventricular tachycardia. So I'm just going to quickly check these. We already have seen them in the beats mode, so this will be just a quick double check of all the beats. Now, what I'm going to do is just go to the very bottom of the page. This is not actually showing us all of the beats, so I'm going to get to those, I need to double click on the last character on the screen and drag this down and double click again. So, and then now we're going to go backwards. Before I do that, there's a couplet here that's not detected properly. There's only one beat that's picked up, the other one is missing altogether. So going to insert this first, clicking on the insert and single left click on the beat, take the insert off and change this beat to ventricular and go back to where I was. Now I'm going to go backwards just to quickly look through. Well, there's another run of ventricular tachycardia which we haven't seen before, and it's not labeled correctly, so I'm going to change these 5 beats to ventricular and go back to where I was. Z button to go out of there. Next, 27 ventricular couplets, and these all seem to be correct. So again, Z button to go out, checking the triplets. All these are fine apart from the 3, this one, and this one, because you can see a couple of beats here that are in gray, so they are not labeled correctly. So I'm going to change them, double click. And again, this one is missing altogether, so insert it first and change these two, shift down, click on the last one, ventricular. Go back to where I was and repeat the same. Again, the beat is missing, that's the reason why it wasn't labeled correctly. Change to ventricular. And this one as well. Same thing here, the beat is missing, so inserting it first and changing to ventricular. And go back, so everything else we have here are ventricular triplets. Z button to go out, and next we are going to go into ventricular tachycardia. Now some of these runs are a little bit longer, they don't fit our screen, so with the ventricular tachycardia I'd rather have a good look at it, so I'm going to check them one at a time. So all I need to do is just double click on the first one and then quickly scroll through all of them just to make sure nothing is missing. And they all seem to be, actually the first one is missing a first beat here. You can see there is no bar. So I'm going to insert this and change to ventricular. And check the rest of it, and it seems to be fine. So again, Z button to go out of there. Runs of trigemini. Again, I can just click a few. Oh, there's a beat missing here, which I'm going to change, and another one over here. So I'm going to go through all of these quickly, and there's quite a few of these beats missing. I can change them here, or we're going to come across them later on in our irregular rhythm mode, or when we look for our shortest and end. So They probably will be bunched together, which will make it quicker to check. Same with this couplet here, so I'm not going to bother right now. Go out to where I was with the Z button. Now next, moving on to supraventricular beats. Again, we looked at them all before, so they all seem to be correct. One run of supraventricular tachycardia, and we've seen it before, so I'm just going to double check by double clicking on the first beat, and sure enough, there's a run here. No need to go into inhibition. Patient event, this is the dire symptom the patient indicated, and there's nothing happening here. So moving on to bradycardia. Bradycardia, the first beat is ventricular here, so I'm going to change it. And look at the rest of them, 288 characters. So again, bring on the view, click Z button to look at the full screen of these. And again, it makes it easier sometimes if you change the speed to 5, so you can see more of these characters on the screen. So it gives you more of an idea what are you looking at. And everything here we look at seems to be sinus. So go out with a Z button, move on to irregular rhythm. And this is where our ventricular beats were hiding, so I'm just going to change them. Click on the first one, change to ventricular, and keep scrolling through. There's a SVVB here. And moving on to the rest of them. Supraventricular. There's another ventricular. There's a ventricular with junctional escape, so and I'm just going to quickly scroll down just to see how many we have left. There's those, I think, about 27 altogether, so we should be about halfway through. Supraventricular beat. One at a time. And I think there's one more. And that takes care of another one hiding there. Another another ventricular. And that's it. So we finished going through the irregular rhythm. Next, moving on to NNs. So to find the longest one, I'm gonna just hold the left mouse click down and drag it over from as far right as possible. And again, I look at usually about 1,000 events. And there's a couplet here that we haven't seen before, so I'm gonna change this and go back, quickly scroll through. All the way down to the bottom. There's another ventricular beat here and another one here, so I'm gonna take care of those before moving on. This is the second one that I was looking at before. It takes us to the top of the page, so I'm just going to go halfway down. This is where we were before. Another run here. Actually, what's going to be easier if I go all the way down and work backwards. So now, if you remember again, just to get down to the bottom of the page, you need to scroll this down and work backwards from there. So and this is a supraventricular beat. So, and this is our longest NN. So I'm going to select and label the strip. This is what I want to show in my summary. And double click to go out of there. There's another ventricular beat here. And again, we probably will see them anyway later on, our shortest NN. So I'm going to go out of there with the Z button and go into shortest NN. So we have to repeat the same thing, just going from the opposite side. Hold the left mouse click down and drag from as far left as possible. And again, I'd like to look at about 1,000 events or so. And sure enough, the first two and a half rows are ventricular beats. Some of these are couplets, so again, I'm gonna go into full disclosure and change them from here. And then there's a couplet here, and all the other ones are just isolated. Actually, this one here, so we can change it from full disclosure. And there was one more, unless we already took care of it. So these, they're only single ones. I can change them from here. So I'm going to click on the first one and drag it down all the way here. So all these will be changed to ventricular at the same time. And the first beat is a supraventricular beat. It's a little early. And the next one should be our longest or shortest NN. Again, insert the label. And this is what I want to show in my summary. And everything else seems to be normal. So Z button to go out of there, and we're pretty much done with all the editing. Patient diary symptoms, if there are any, you can look at the full page and correlate them with the timing. You can change the time to 2-minute, 5-minute interval, whatever you want to work with. And just scroll down to the time that's indicated by the patient and see if there's anything on the ECG. Moving on to the strips, this is where we're going to pick the strips for a final report. There are 487 ventricular premature beats. None of them are marked, so that means there's no strips as of yet. I usually like to show 1 or 2, so to do that, all I need to just click on the strip and use the spacebar on your keyboard. And this highlights the strip, and this strip will figure into a report. Maybe pick another one. Moving on to couplets, there are 5 out of 31 showing. So if this is enough, I'm happy with that. I'm going to leave that like that. 11 ventricular triplets, 3 of these strips are in the report. Maybe I can pick another one. 17 runs of ventricular tachycardia. I'd rather show them all, so I can either mark all, or I can do it one at a time, like we did with the other one. So, runs of trigemini, I'm going to show maybe 1. So I'm going to clear all first and pick 1. Same with quadrigemini. 19 supraventricular beats. Again, I want to show at least a couple in my report. So 1 run of supraventricular tachycardia. It's already selected for us. Inhibition, I'm going to clear. Bradycardia, 292 episodes. Pick 1 of them. Minimum heart rate, 43. It's correct. And so is the maximum heart rate. And then the 2 strips which I selected myself, shortest NN and longest NN. And this is it. So the analysis is pretty much done. Next step is to go into summary and interpretation. So this is the field where you can use your own interpretation, or you can use any of the phrases from the menu on the right side. So you can put in normal ECG, for example, and all the other findings that you have. And at this point, once you finish typing your interpretation, the last thing to do is to save the report.